use as little energy.
All over California, it hasn't happened since World War II. Countdown to the inauguration, consumer confidence takes a dive. George Bush's nominee for Attorney General says he will not challenge a woman's right to have an abortion. Barbara Walters talks to Mr. Bush. And recalling a product that is very hard to get at, the defective artificial hip.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening to all of you on the West Coast. We're going to begin in California tonight. There is no ignoring the energy crisis now. For the first time since World War II, people across the country's most populous state are having their power turned off on an intermittent basis. And before long, millions of Californians are going to be facing those rotating blackouts, which some of you are experiencing as a reality already. Here's ABC's Brian Rooney.
In San Francisco, the stoplights were out at critical intersections.
Well, they see no lights and they want to go, pedestrians and vehicles.
In a brewery pub, the electric cash register was off, the menu limited.
We can only make a limited menu, so we can't sell very much.
In an East Bay Target store, shoppers push carts in the near dark. Starting just before noon, customers all over Northern California spent part of their day without power. Facing a shortage, the agency that controls power for most of California scoured the West for extra megawatts to buy, then gave up and ordered blackouts.
We need to make sure that we do not drop below an unacceptable level and put the system at risk, which would actually put the overall Western United States at risk of a blackout.
The blackouts are controlled by individual utilities, which turn off the circuits in local areas for an hour at a time. In San Francisco, Pacific Gas and Electric said the outages affected about 200,000 customers at a time. Some California businesses made deals with the power companies for lower rates if they can serve by shutting down at critical times. Today, only 20 of 600 employees were working at the Hutchinson Seal Auto Parts factory in Downey.
I look across the Nevada border and I see Las Vegas totally lit up. They're getting power from someplace, and I'm sure that power could be redirected to California.
Today, the California legislature was working on a plan to buy power cheaply and supply it at cost to nearly bankrupt utilities. But the problem is there's not enough power at any price.
We have a chronic shortage of supply, and until that issue is addressed and corrected, we're simply rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
This evening, the system operators found enough power, what's known as magic megawatts, to get through the first hour of peak demand without further blackouts. But tonight, the California power grid is surviving hour to hour. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Now to the country as a whole. There was an important reading on the economy today from consumers. A new ABC News Money Magazine poll registers the sharpest drop in consumer confidence since 1990. Now, a majority of Americans believe the economy is still in good shape, but they are uneasy. Take heed, Mr. Bush. 55% of the public thinks the country is headed for recession. Here's ABC's Betsy Stark.
The nosedive in consumer confidence is an ominous signal because it has been such an accurate forecast of recession in the past.
And often, economists and policymakers don't know that we're in recession even when we are, and it's the decline, the precipitous decline in confidence that signals for sure that we are in the proverbial economic soup.
Consumer spending accounts for 2/3 of economic activity. So the impact of a nervous consumer cannot be overstated.
You're going to have a little brother or sister.
Kyle Clark and his wife both have good jobs in Southern California, but they have put off buying a house and a family-sized car because they are anxious about the future.
I'm not a gambling man, never have been, and I'm not going to go out and gamble and have something happen.
In today's poll, just 44% of Americans surveyed say now is a good time to be buying things. That's the fewest in 3 years. Not surprising, perhaps, given the losses Americans have suffered in the stock market, the big bite energy bills are taking out of their budgets, and the continuing barrage of bad news.
Industrial output dropped 0.6%.
Among today's headlines, the biggest plunge in factory output since the last recession. The more Americans hear there's a problem, the more likely they are to believe it. 59-year-old Richard Curley, who lost his job at a Massachusetts consulting company 6 weeks ago, says it's hard not to believe things will get worse.
profits are down. You're seeing layoffs. Obviously, when it comes home and you're laid off, that really concerns you.
Consumers may also be concerned about the gloomy economic forecast coming from the new administration. Indeed, today's poll confirms they now believe what they are being told, that there is trouble ahead. Betsy Stark, ABC News, New York.
Now to Washington for the big event on Capitol Hill, day 2 of the confirmation hearings for John Ashcroft, Mr. Bush's choice to be Attorney General. The political pressure is enormous on either side of this confirmation fight. ABC's Linda Douglas was in the hearings again today. Linda.
Peter, during hours of sharp questioning, John Ashcroft did appear to hold his own. And 2 Democratic senators said that despite their reservations about him, they believe he will be confirmed.
Democrats asked skeptical questions about John Ashcroft's statement that the right to abortion is settled law, not in dispute.
Can you explain the evolution in the belief?
I just want to indicate that if you think I have changed to believe that aborting unborn children is a good thing, I don't.
But Ashcroft said he would not seek to overturn Roe versus Wade.
I don't think it is the agenda of the President-elect of the United States to seek an opportunity to overturn Roe. And as his Attorney General, I don't think it could be my agenda to seek an opportunity to overturn Roe.
Mr. Ashcroft also promised to enforce gun control laws, such as a ban on assault weapons, which he opposes. Democrats asked, was he just telling them what they wanted to hear?
I see a kind of metamorphosis going on, a mutation, if you will. And quite frankly, I don't know what to believe.
But moderate Republicans who also disagree with him on abortion and guns said they trust him to keep his word.
I have absolutely no doubt that John will fully and vigorously enforce the laws of the United States, regardless of his personal views.
Democrats continued to question his views on race. Why did he give an interview to a magazine which writes sympathetically about the Confederacy and slavery?
Speaking to them implies, to me, an incredible insensitivity.
Does Ashcroft condemn the magazine's beliefs?
I condemn those things which are condemnable.
Ashcroft said, of course he condemns slavery. And tomorrow, Republican senators are preparing to defend him vigorously, Peter, when a black judge testifies about Ashcroft's efforts to keep him off the federal bench.
Thanks very much. We'll be back there again tomorrow. Linda Douglas on Capitol Hill. Mr. Ashcroft's confirmation is very much a priority for the president-elect. And ABC's Barbara Walters sat down with Mr. Bush in Crawford, Texas, yesterday.
Did you expect him to be as much of a lightning rod?
Yes.
You really did. And you did it anyway, even though you talk about wanting to unite. So.
Well, that doesn't mean that we can't unite the nation once we put somebody in place who can do the job as Attorney General.
He's not considered a friend to civil rights. He's been against court-ordered desegregation. The big question is, can an Attorney General enforce federal laws and protect rights that he personally, vigorously opposes?
Yes. His job is going to be to enforce the laws, and there's no question in my mind he will. I know there's a lot of people out there and you know, hollering, mainly voices of special interest in Washington. That's what they're paid to do. And they're paid to create, you know, noise and emotion. But John is a steady hand who'll do a fine job.
Mr. Ashcroft has said repeatedly he intends to enforce the law, and Barbara Walters' complete interview will be on 2020 on Friday. There were 4 other confirmation hearings in the Senate today. Former General Colin Powell, who will be Secretary of State, said he looks forward to being the first African-American to hold that office. And almost on cue, there were several reminders today of the troubles that Mr. Powell and President Bush may face.
In Vienna, the oil cartel OPEC agreed to cut production by 5%. They want to keep oil prices high. The U.S. lobbied against it without success. In Baghdad, Saddam Hussein was celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Gulf War. He said today that Iraq has remained and the army has remained. How will the new administration restrain him? And this morning, India tested a ballistic missile that can carry a nuclear warhead. Next door, Pakistan said that was a direct threat. How will General Powell and President Bush restrain these antagonistic neighbors?
Later in the broadcast, the other news, the struggling American farmers who found what they needed in the wind. And the manufacturer's recall, which is very difficult to accomplish.
Part of me is like, you know, recalls are supposed to be for tires or something. They're really not supposed to be recalling things inside people.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Tylenol.
When you or someone you love is hospitalized, you want the best care possible. And for their patients, doctors and hospitals choose Tylenol. Doctors recommend Tylenol for people on certain prescriptions, and it won't cause stomach irritation the way aspirin and even ibuprofen sometimes can. For over 20 years, Tylenol has been the pain reliever hospitals use most. Tylenol. Take comfort in our strength.
Women want you to believe they have to suffer to stay in shape. But what about Kellogg's Special K? Does that look like suffering to you? Delicious, lightly toasted flakes and only 110 calories? Doesn't sound so bad to me. Maybe it's time for me to do the Special K thing.
Kellogg's Special K. Looking good never tasted so great.
Need extra cash? Don't charge it on your credit cards. Get a second mortgage with no closing costs from Ditech.com. With a second mortgage, you can consolidate all your existing high-interest debts, get the cash you need for any purpose, and end up with one lower monthly payment. A second mortgage with no closing cost is smart money from Ditech.com. Log on now for fast online approval or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED.
The most important thing I've done in life is take care of my family. An important thing I've done lately? Talk to my doctor.
Ask your doctor about Prempro.
I'm glad I did.
Don't get that, Frank.
Hello? Baxter! Crunchy Meow Mix Seafood Middles. Mackerel and tuna flavors make it taste so good. Cats ask for it. By name.
The American Red Cross is concerned about mad cow disease, which in Europe has led to several cases of fatal brain disease in people. Today, the Red Cross asked the government to disallow blood donations from Americans who've lived in Europe at any time in the last 20 years. There is, as you know, a shortage of blood in the country. Quite an extraordinary story tonight about quite an extraordinary product recall. When we report on companies calling back products, it very often involves tires, baby strollers, cars, whatnot. But this is about hips. Doctors replace about 125,000 hips every year with artificial joints. And last month, one company said an artificial hip joint in 17,000 patients needed to be recalled. Here's ABC's John McKenzie.
It'll take a little walk.
3 months ago, Lindsay Lowe received an artificial hip. Today, it is virtually useless. If she puts weight on it, the hip buckles and she falls.
I can only walk little short distances with my crutches. Right now, I'm in a wheelchair because the pain is very severe, such that if I were to walk, I'd worry.
Lowe's natural hip bone is not bonding with the artificial socket or cup.
The gap indicates the cup is loose, and with the cup being loose, that means it's painful.
Last month, doctors discovered why. They got a letter from the Sulzer Orthopedics Company announcing a defect in the artificial hip Lowe and thousands of patients had received since October of 1999. The company said that a production error had left traces of machine oil on the artificial joints and that the recall would begin immediately.
We have accepted full responsibility for this. We're profoundly disturbed by the effect this recall has had on the surgeon as well as the patient, and we're sorry for that.
I was frustrated. Part of me was angry. Recalls are supposed to be for tires or something. They're really not supposed to be recalling things inside people.
At the Jackson Arthritis Center in Oakland, doctors have identified 256 of their patients who may have received the defective hip.
In retrospect, it did seem that patients were having more pain than we were used to.
Patients still in pain are now being told to have the artificial hip replaced. No one knows how many of these operations will be needed or how difficult they might be. Replacing an artificial hip can take twice as long as putting one in. That's because there's usually much more scar tissue. And then there are the risks associated with another surgery. The potential for blood loss and infection and complications. Lo is scheduled to have her replacement operation later this month.
I've got to have this thing out. I've got to have a new one put in. I've got to go through all the rehab again.
The company has offered to cover medical costs not paid by Medicare or other health insurance. But some patients are filing lawsuits for lost wages and unnecessary pain and suffering. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
Financial trouble indeed. One of the great brand names may be headed for bankruptcy.
Look for the seal on the peel. Get Profit Box Chiquita brand bananas.
There have been Chiquita bananas for 131 years. Chiquita was the first to sell them as a brand. But now there are simply too many bananas in the world at competitive prices. When we come back, they call him the charming rascal.
In this place, I see a lot of gas. I also see a lot of folks taking medicines that don't fight gas. But Gas-X has the most powerful medicine to relieve gas fast. Nothing I've seen works faster. Gas-X beats the bloat fast.
Glade Plug-in's Extra Outlet has the extra outlet built right in. So you can make any room in your home Glade fresh without blocking your outlets. Plug-in's Extra Outlet, fresh from Glade.
Plug it in, plug it in. And hoping and thinking and praying.
A delicious dressing with just 2 grams of fat. Stop wishing and start eating. Just too good from Wishbone.
Wishing and hoping.
Try it both ways. Most dancers are afraid of losing a step. After I had my stroke, I was afraid I'd never dance again. Now I take Bayer aspirin every day, like my doctor said, to help prevent another stroke.
Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen.
And when my body is sore, I take extra strength Bayer. It's that strong. It's great to be back.
Bayer. Take it for pain, take it for life.
Eating Quaker oatmeal every day for 30 days helped lower my cholesterol. I don't know how, but it did.
It removes it.
My cholesterol went down 11 points somehow or other.
It removes it. Mine came down 21 points.
Can't figure out how it works, though.
It removes it.
You reckon it actually works to remove it?
You ought to pay as much attention to your checkers as you do your oatmeal.
Quaker oatmeal warms you heart and soul.
Ouch! Pain again? I thought your dentist said brush with Sensodyne every day.
I stopped when the pain stopped.
Keep using it. It keeps working.
Sensodyne every day. Now try Sensodyne Tartar Control Plus Whitening every day.
Tomorrow, bad news for the auto industry could mean good news for you. How to cash in on a great deal on the car you want on Good Morning America tomorrow.
There are 3 days until the inauguration now. George Bush arrived in Washington just a short while ago. The excitement level in the city is increasingly apparent. It'd be like this no matter who was becoming president. No one ever forgets an inauguration that they have attended. This has been a moving day in the emotional sense for Mr. Bush and for Mr. Clinton, each of them close to their roots. We start with Mr. Bush in Midland, Texas. ABC's Terry Moran was there.
George and Laura Bush came to Midland, the town where they met, to say farewell to Texas.
It's an honor to be back home. Laura and I are on a great journey.
On a bitterly cold day, Mr. Bush received a hometown hero's send-off. And he harked back to his childhood in this boom and bust oil town as he looked ahead to the White House.
The spirit of possibility was as big as the West Texas sky. I'm going to take a lot of Midland and a lot of Texas with me up there.
As the huge crowd that turned out today demonstrates, Midland clearly loves George W. Bush, and he returns the affection. But in Washington, he faces a very different environment.
Mr. Bush said he would seek to bring the optimism he learned here to his new responsibilities in Washington.
I leave here really upbeat about getting some things done for the people. By putting aside all the partisan bickering and name-calling and anger.
Today, saying goodbye was clearly hard.
I'm leaving Texas, but not forever. This is my home.
Terry Moran, ABC News, Midland.
And now to Mr. Clinton's roots in Arkansas. 65% of Americans say they approve of the way President Clinton has done his job, remarkably close to his approval rating 8 years ago, and 1 point better than President Reagan when he returned to private life in California. But 77% of the people we poll say they believe he is neither honest nor trustworthy. You could pick up the contradiction today in his home state. ABC's John Cochran went with him.
The president came not only to say goodbye, but to thank the people of his home state.
Everything that I have been able to do as president is in no small measure a result of the life I lived and the jobs I had in Arkansas. The mystery of this great democracy gave me the chance to go from a little boy on South Hervey Street in Hope, Arkansas, to the White House.
Like the rest of the country, the people of Arkansas have mixed feelings about Bill Clinton, but here, feelings are deeper. On that election night 8 years ago, they were so proud. After his election, we stopped by Mr. Clinton's hometown. Poultry farmer Mike Hewitt had gone to kindergarten with Bill Clinton and was sure he would improve Arkansas's image.
We're not a backward people in Arkansas. We're much a member of the United States as anybody else.
Today, Mike is not so sure Bill Clinton was good for the state.
I think there was a spotlight put on the state, and a lot of times it wasn't good.
Back in '92, Gary Johnson was thrilled that Bill Clinton put Hope on the map. Today, Gary runs the visitor center.
And I think just like the whole, the rest of our country, we were disappointed at some of the things that he was involved in during his 2 administrations. We were embarrassed.
In '92, diner owner Alice Conley was a big Clinton fan. Today, Alice feels very differently. She is angry and for the first time voted Republican in November.
When you could look at him right there on the camera when he said, I did not have sexual relationship with that woman, he was lying. You could see it all over his face. He just lied.
8 years ago, schoolteacher Harvey Smith thought Mr. Clinton was a wonderful example to his students. Today, Harvey still admires him, but there is a sadness about what could have been.
Well, I'm disappointed. I would have hoped to have seen him. I would hope to see history treat him as a great president, and I'm afraid they won't.
One of Mr. Clinton's longtime critics in Arkansas said today, he's a charming rascal. I'll miss the charm, he said, but not the rascal. John Cochran, ABC News, Little Rock.
2 men going in different directions. When we come back, how a forgotten prairie community turned the wind to its advantage.
You're getting sleepy. Very sleepy. No, not.
Cold symptoms keeping you awake? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can get the sleep you need to feel better medicine.
Tell me that's not for us, Chuck.
It's not. But that is.
Whiskas Homestyle Favorites. 4 new meals that taste like you'd make. Slow cooked and sealed in the Flavor Lock pouch.
Should we save him some?
Whiskas. What cats want.
When your eyes feel dry, gritty, irritated, protect them with Refresh brand eye drops. First, Refresh relieves dryness. Then Refresh forms a lasting shield of protection that keeps irritation out and moisture in. Refresh. It relieves and protects.
Looking for a great value on a great car? It's time to check out Oldsmobile, because right now, you can drive with the confidence of a 5-year, 60,000-mile General Motors protection plan. An offer that's good on every new 2001 Oldsmobile. Plus, qualified buyers can finance a new 2001 Oldsmobile with 0 down plus 0 interest and payments until 2002, which makes Oldsmobile the smart buyer's choice. It's one of our best offers yet.
I'm ready.
See your local dealer today.
If you have arthritis pain, there's reason to celebrate. It's Celebrex.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Powerful 24-hour relief from osteoarthritis pain and stiffness. Celebrex, the first arthritis medicine that targets only the COX-2 enzyme.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Celebrex should not be taken if you've had aspirin-sensitive asthma or allergic reactions due to aspirin or other arthritis medicines, or certain drugs called sulfonamides. In rare cases, serious stomach problems such as bleeding can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have kidney or liver problems.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Ask your doctor about Celebrex. Celebrex, the #1 selling brand of prescription arthritis medicine.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
What will I be like a year from now? How much will I grow? How strong will I be? In 5 years? In 10 years? Where does my future start? You'd be surprised.
I'm Steve Dunn. Coming up next on K2 News at 6:30. He died a month ago. Now doctors make it official. The rave drug ecstasy claims its first Oregon victim. And records released today tell a disturbing story of a murdered teen and the co-worker accused of the crime. K2 News is coming up next.
Finally this evening, reaping a living from the wind. We began with California's very modern power crisis, and we end with an ancient way to generate power: windmills. For a group of farmers in one of the poorest and dreariest corners of the frozen north, they were a godsend. Here's ABC's Jim Williams.
In southwest Minnesota, the land is so flat, there is nothing to break this wind.
We fought it all the time. Wintertime, it blew snow around. Summer, it dried crops out.
Growing beans and corn is so difficult. Kenneth Anderson used to ask why his grandfather settled here 150 years ago.
I always wondered why, if he was in his right mind when he stopped in this miserable place with all the wind and the rocks.
A miserable place no more. Today, 400 windmills scattered over 30 miles of farmland produce enough electricity for 96,000 homes.
I've lived here and farmed here my whole life. This wind has been the greatest thing that has ever happened to my county.
Minnesota's poorest county. Leasing their land to an energy company, farmers are paid thousands of dollars a year.
It's seen as a good idea today, but years ago when they first started talking about putting up windmills here, it was a hard sell. Many farmers did not want them.
Farmers were worried the windmills would get in the way, keeping them from planting their crops.
We worked with them to make sure that they could continue to use the land around the wind farms and took up as small of a space as possible.
Today, crops and windmills coexist, and farms like the Andersons have been saved.
We were able to pay off our debts and pay for our farm, and now we can retire and have a real nice life, I think.
This alternative source of power is so successful, they're building 200 more windmills. Jim Williams, ABC News, Lake Benton, Minnesota.
That is our report on World News Tonight. We're on our way to Washington now for the inauguration. I hope you'll join us tomorrow. I'm Peter Jennings. Hope you have a good evening. Good night.
It's hard finding the right program. No.
Yo, Michelle.
Next.
The State Farm U.S. Figure Skating Championships, Saturday on ABC.
Connecting you to your world. This is K2 News.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Paul Lendman. Thanks for being with us. Ecstasy has claimed its first victim in the state of Oregon. Toxicology tests have confirmed a Portland teenager overdosed on that drug last month.
Police and doctors say there are warning signs that parents should look for.